There's a spice that sells for more per pound than gold. It blooms once a year, in October, for exactly 2 weeks. Each flower produces only 3 tiny red threads. You need 75,000 flowers to make 1 pound. It has been traded for over 4,000 years. Empires fought wars over it. Cleopatra bathed in it. Monks were burned alive for forging it. And it grows, without irrigation, without fertilizer, without daily care, in a single clay pot on a windowsill. The global saffron market is worth over $1 billion. Nobody told you that you could grow it at home for the cost of a bag of soil. The spice is saffron. And the plant that produces it is called Crocus sativus. It is a small, purple, autumn-blooming flower that grows from a bulb the size of a walnut. The bulb is called a corm. You plant it in late summer, somewhere around August or September. You push it 3 to 4 inches into well-drained sandy soil. And then you wait. You do not water it. You do not fertilize it. You do not touch it. In October, when most plants are dying, this one wakes up. A thin green shoot breaks through the soil. A few days later, a single purple flower opens at dawn. Inside that flower, hanging like 3 tiny crimson threads, are the stigmas. Those 3 threads are saffron. You pinch them out with your fingers. That is the entire harvest. 3 threads, 1 flower, once a year. It sounds like nothing. And that is exactly what makes it the most expensive spice on earth. The retail price of high-grade saffron in the United States ranges from $5 to $15 per gram. Premium varieties, Super Nagan from Iran, have been listed above $15 per gram at specialty retailers. That translates to roughly $5,000 to $10,000 per pound, depending on the grade. Some wholesale sources have recorded prices exceeding $15,000 per pound. By comparison, gold currently trades in the range of $60,000 to $70,000 per kilogram. Gram for gram, the highest retail saffron approaches 1/5 the price of gold. But unlike gold, saffron is edible, it is medicinal, it is aromatic, and it can be grown in a clay pot by anyone with a windowsill and $6 worth of bulbs. The history of this plant reads like a war novel. The earliest evidence of saffron cultivation dates to the Bronze Age, roughly 1700 BCE. Frescoes discovered at the archaeological site of Akrotiri on the island of Santorini, part of the ancient Minoan civilization, depict young women harvesting saffron crocus flowers and presenting them to a seated goddess. The paintings are over 3,500 years old. They were buried under volcanic ash when the island erupted around 1600 BCE. They survived intact, and the flower they depict is genetically identical to the Crocus sativus you can order online today for $1.50 per corm. From there, the trail spreads across every major civilization that touched the ancient Mediterranean and beyond. In Persia, saffron was considered sacred. Ancient Persian worshippers used it as a ritual offering to their deities. It was scattered across royal beds and dissolved into hot teas as a remedy for melancholy, a practice documented in medical texts that predate Hippocrates. Only the royal cook was permitted to use saffron in palace kitchens. In ancient India, saffron arrived in the Kashmir Valley. Legend says through Sufi saints in the 12th century, though some historians trace its cultivation in the Pampa region back to the 3rd century BCE under the Mauryan Empire. Today, roughly 30,000 families in the Pampur area still cultivate it, and Kashmiri mongrel saffron remains among the most expensive grades in the world. In Egypt, Cleopatra reportedly bathed in saffron-infused mare's milk before romantic encounters. She believed the spice enhanced sensation and beautified the skin. In ancient Greece, physicians prescribed saffron for insomnia, respiratory ailments, and inflammation. It was documented in Ayurvedic, Chinese, Egyptian, Greek, and Arabic medical traditions, spanning more than 3,000 years of continuous therapeutic use. The ancient Greek text known as the Ebers Papyrus references its healing properties. Avicenna, the 11th century Persian polymath, devoted entire passages of his canon of medicine to saffron's effects on digestion, mood, and pain. In traditional Chinese medicine, saffron was believed to stimulate blood flow, remove blockages, and support liver function. Alexander the Great reportedly used saffron-infused water to treat his battle wounds, exploiting the plant's antimicrobial properties during his eastern campaigns. His soldiers adopted the practice. Greek physicians carried saffron as a battlefield staple. In ancient Rome, saffron was not just medicine, it was spectacle. Romans sprinkled saffron-infused water, called sparsionis, across the aisles of amphitheaters on hot days. Audiences at the Colosseum sat in clouds of golden fragrant mist while watching gladiators fight below. Saffron was dissolved into their baths, blended into their perfumes, scattered across the floors of temples. It was the aromatic signature of imperial luxury. Then came the medieval period, and with it, blood. When the Black Death struck Europe in 1347, demand for saffron exploded. Plague victims and physicians alike scrambled for any substance believed to have curative power. Saffron, long praised for its medicinal reputation, became one of the most sought-after treatments. Doctors trained in Arabic medical texts prescribed saffron-based remedies. Prices surged, supply collapsed. And the desperation created a new kind of criminal, the saffron forger. In 1374, an 800-pound shipment of saffron was hijacked on its way to the city of Basel in modern-day Switzerland. The theft triggered a 14-week armed conflict between Basel and local Austrian nobles. Historians call it the Saffron War, 14 weeks of violence over a flower that blooms once a year. But the violence was not limited to theft. In 15th century Nuremberg, one of the largest saffron trading hubs in Europe, the authorities enacted specific laws to punish saffron fraud. If a merchant was caught adulterating saffron, mixing it with safflower, turmeric, honey, or dyed horse meat, the penalty was death. Not a fine, not prison. Death. In 1444, a man named Johannes Röntgen was convicted of adulterating saffron and was executed. Historical accounts say he was burned alive alongside his fraudulent product. The message was clear. If you faked saffron, you burned with it. In England, the spice became so central to regional identity that an entire town was renamed after it. The market town of Chipping Walden in Essex became Saffron Walden after Henry VIII granted it a royal charter in 1514. The charter itself was decorated with illustrations of the saffron crocus. The town's prosperity was built on a single flower. That was 500 years ago. The plant has not changed. The flower still blooms in October. The stigmas still number 3 per flower. The corms still multiply underground every season. What changed is who grows it and who profits from it. Today, Iran produces approximately 90% of the world's saffron. The province of Khorasan-Razavi alone accounts for the vast majority of global output. The remaining 10% comes from India, Spain, Greece, Morocco, and Afghanistan. The global saffron market was valued at between $500 million and $1.2 billion in 2025, depending on the research firm, and is projected to surpass $1.5 billion by the early 2030s. That is a multi-billion-dollar trajectory for 3 red threads from a purple flower. Almost none of that money flows to individual growers in the West, because the Western consumer has been trained to buy saffron in a tiny glass jar at $12 to $16 per half gram, not to grow it in a pot for pennies. Here is what the industry does not advertise. Crocus sativus is a perennial. You plant the corms once, they come back every year. Not only do they return, they multiply. Each corm produces 2 to 3 daughter corms per season. You start with 10. After 1 year, you have 20 to 30. After 2 years, 60 to 90. After 4 years, you can have over 160 corms producing flowers from a single original investment of 10 bulbs. 10 saffron corms cost between $6 and $15 online. Eden Brothers lists 10 corms for about $15. Southern Bulb Company sells them at the same price. Dutch Grown offers 25 corms for $17. Some Amazon listings offer 10 large corms for under $12. The price of entry is less than a fast food meal. The corms need no daily watering. They prefer dry conditions during their summer dormancy, which lasts from roughly May through August. They require no supplemental irrigation during this period. When autumn rains arrive, they wake up on their own. They bloom in October. They push out leaves through fall and winter, and then they go dormant again. The entire cycle requires less attention than a houseplant. They are drought tolerant. They survive freezing winters down to USDA Zone 6, and with mulch protection, even Zone 5. They thrive in sandy, well-drained soil. A 6 to 8 inch deep clay pot with basic potting mix is all they need. 1 pot, 10 corms, sandy soil, no daily watering, no fertilizer, no pesticide, and every October, 30 threads of the most expensive spice on the planet. The yield per pot sounds small, and it is, initially, but the math changes fast when corms multiply. According to Penn State Extension, it takes roughly 4,000 blossoms to yield 1 ounce of saffron. The University of Vermont Saffron Research Group reports that 1 flower produces approximately 0.006 grams of dried saffron. So 50 corms may produce around 150 flowers, yielding close to 1 gram of dried saffron. 1 gram of saffron retails at $5 to $15. 200 corms, achievable within 3 to 4 years from a 10 corm start, could produce 4 to 5 grams per season. That is $20 to $75 worth of saffron per year from a balcony garden that required almost 0 labor and 0 ongoing cost. And then there is the science, which makes saffron far more than a culinary luxury. Saffron contains 3 bioactive compounds that have attracted serious clinical attention. The first is crocin, the pigment responsible for saffron's deep red color and its ability to turn liquids golden yellow. Research published in Frontiers in Pharmacology has linked crocin to significant antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and neuroprotective effects. The second compound is saffronol, responsible for saffron's distinctive aroma. Studies in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology have documented saffronol's anxiolytic, antihypertensive, and anti-inflammatory properties. The third is quercetin, a carotenoid that research suggests may improve oxygen diffusion in blood plasma and support cardiovascular function. But the most striking clinical finding involves depression. A meta-analysis drawing on multiple randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trials concluded that saffron supplementation significantly reduced symptoms of major depressive disorder. Some individual studies found saffron as effective as fluoxetine, a widely prescribed SSRI antidepressant, in treating mild to moderate depression over a 6-week period. A 2026 literature review published in Curious confirmed that saffron appears promising for short-term symptom reduction in mild to moderate depression. The NIH has flagged saffron as a compound of interest for further psychiatric research. There is also emerging evidence for eye health. A study published in the journal Investigative Ophthalmology and Visual Science found that saffron supplementation improved retinal flicker sensitivity in patients with early age-related macular degeneration. A subsequent long-term trial confirmed the safety and efficacy of oral saffron in treating mild to moderate AMD. The research is being led by teams at institutions including the University of Sydney and has been registered on clinicaltrials.gov. This is not a folk remedy. These are peer-reviewed, clinically tested compounds, and they grow in a pot on your windowsill. Yet the average American consumer encounters saffron only as a luxury purchase, a tiny sealed jar in the spice aisle, often adulterated. Saffron fraud remains one of the most widespread food crimes in the global spice trade. Safflower petals, which cost 1/100th of what saffron costs, are frequently dyed and sold as real saffron. Ground turmeric is mixed in. Dried corn silk is colored and threaded. The American Chemical Society published a feature in 2025 documenting the scale of the problem. Powdered saffron is the most vulnerable, often containing 50 to 90% filler material. When you buy a jar of pre-ground saffron from a grocery store, there is a meaningful probability you are not buying saffron at all. Growing your own eliminates the fraud entirely. You see the flower, you pinch the thread, you dry it yourself. 3 stigmas per bloom, pure, unadulterated. The same compound Cleopatra dissolved in her bath. The same thread that Nuremberg merchants were executed for faking. The growing process is almost absurdly simple. In August or September, place 10 corms, pointed end up, about 3 inches deep and 3 inches apart in a wide, shallow clay pot with well-drained sandy soil. Set the pot in a sunny location. Do not water during summer dormancy. When October arrives and temperatures begin to cool, the corms will send up thin green shoots. Within days, purple flowers will open. Each contains 3 red stigmas. Pinch them out in the morning when the flower first opens. This is when the volatile compounds are at their highest concentration. Lay the threads on a paper towel and dry them in a warm, dark place for 2 to 3 days. Store in an airtight glass jar away from light. That is it. Your harvest, your saffron. Repeat every October for the rest of your life. The corms multiply. The supply grows. The cost stays at 0. 4,000 years ago, Minoan women gathered this flower on the volcanic cliffs of Santorini and offered it to a goddess. 1,000 years later, Cleopatra dissolved it in milk. 500 years after that, Romans perfumed their amphitheaters with it. During the Black Death, it was worth more than human life. Men were executed for adulterating it. Wars were fought over cartloads of it. Towns were renamed in its honor. Empires rose and collapsed. And through all of it, the same small purple flower kept blooming every October, producing 3 crimson threads that the world decided were worth more per pound than silver. Today, you can buy 10 of those bulbs for the price of a coffee. You can plant them in a clay pot on your kitchen windowsill. You can harvest the most expensive spice on earth with your own hands every autumn. No farmland, no greenhouse, no irrigation system, no degree in horticulture. The flower has not changed in 4,000 years. The only thing that changed is that someone decided you should buy it in a jar instead of growing it in a pot. That someone was not the flower. If you learned something from this video, subscribe. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever tried growing saffron at home? And if you have not, this October might be a good time to start. Next video, we go deeper into another ancient resource the modern world forgot existed. I will see you there.